All right. So welcome back, everyone. We have started live streaming on YouTube right now also. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, researchers, students, engineers, community partners, and energy decision makers from Nigeria and globally. And welcome to another from Research to Reality webinar brought to you by the Smart Conference Project team. In time past, we've looked at 6 webinars of this kind, um, going from structuring your abstract industry partnership around sustainable development of local energy markets, architecting a sustainable EV charging ecosystem for African cities, internationalizing research for sustainable local content development, energy transition in Africa, looking at opportunities and challenges. And lastly, from last week webinar, we looked at thermal technologies for plug and abandonment of oil and gas wells. And thus far, this has been wonderful webinar. And today, we are not relenting in this wonderful capacity. We are not relenting in this wonderful pursuit of um, knowledge, in this wonderful pursuit of excellence, right? So today, we have someone who has earned his PhD in civil engineering from Marquette University. His research develops innovative and sustainable solutions for water and wastewater treatment, stormwater management, nutrient recovery, nutrient recovery, agricultural wastewater quality, microplastic pollution, and decentralized agriculture, decentralized sanitation system. Is interdisciplinary research supported by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and Office of Naval Research bridges fundamental science with practical engineering solutions to improve water quality, enhance resource recovery, and strengthen environmental resilience. And someone with this vast bio description will be taking us through the topic which was presented to us during the course of the week. His presentation will focus on how emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, data learning, and community centered engineering can improve local environmental quality, public health, sanitation access, and everyday quality of life. Using examples from his current research on decentralized wastewater management in Alabama Black Belt, EPA supported agricultural water quality projects, and other community scale environmental research, our wonderful doctor today will discuss will discuss how sensors, data modeling, and AI-enabled tools can support better waste water and waste management decision in underserved communities. The talk today will highlight how inadequate sanitation and water infrastructure create environmental contamination, health risk, economic burden, and long-term resilience challenges. It will also create a space for broader discussion on how researchers, students, engineers, community partners, and decision makers can work together to develop practical, affordable, and sustainable solutions. By connecting challenges in Alabama Black Belt with similar issues faced in developing regions, Nigeria, for example, the presentation will explore how decentralized systems, digital tools, and collaborative research can move from research to reality and support healthier local environment, move, move resilient communities, and more impactful ways of living. And bringing this topic to us today is in person of Dr. Kaushik Ventish Waran, sorry for the pronunciation, an assistant professor in the Department of Civil, Coastal, and Environmental Engineering at the University of South Alabama. I believe right now we can give him a wonderful applaud. Thank you for having us, sir. Thank you very much. And the floor is yours now, sir.
All right, thank you. Let me start sharing the screen. Let me know if you can hear me and also you can see the screen.
Very clearly, sir, and we
All
can
right.
see the screen very clearly. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And with that, I first of all, thank you for that introduction. I'm apologize for the long bio I wrote. I didn't expect you would be saying all that, but that saves me some time in my presentation, so I appreciate that. With that, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to give this webinar. It's early good morning here, 8 a.m. in Alabama. But I'm really glad for this opportunity because one of the things is that it let me explore a topic which I'm interested to explore further and collaborate further. So it is very eye-opening in a way when I was actually searching for more information that I wanted. So I really appreciate this opportunity. So, with that, so overall, my topic today is to talk about something that I'm really interested in and I want to take it further. And it requires not just civil and environmental engineers, but engineers from all different sections, especially from the computer science, electrical engineering section. So, uh, with that, the topic of my presentation today would be emerging technologies and AI in community centered engineering and environmental quality and sanitation. So basically, trying to give you a picture of where we stand in terms of wastewater treatment, water treatment, stormwater treatment, and how it can be made smarter. And there is a need for doing that as well. So, with that, oops, okay. So this is the overview page. I have roughly 24 slides. So I'll start with a little bit of a bio. I'll reduce it down to save time. But overall, my main topics today is to give you a understanding of why wastewater treatment is changing. And it's not just wastewater, it's how we see waste in general, but it's just wastewater, stormwater, industrial waters, everything. How are we seeing it now? It's not a waste anymore. We see it more as a resource. So we'll talk about a bit more on that. Then I will move into the emerging technologies that are transforming wastewater. Now, I do make my topic about wastewater, but generally it's all, again, it's about water, stormwater, and wastewater. Wastewater is just more complex. If you're trying to solve something, if you do this complex one, easy, water is becomes easy. Then I will go over some real world examples where these kind of technologies have been implemented and are slowly showing their benefits. And the future is bright on that side. I will show some my research examples where these kind of technologies are either being used or is needed. And I'm looking for more ideas and collaboration in that realm. And I'll share some of those. And with that, I'll have some closing remarks. So a little bit about me. As mentioned, yes, I did my PhD at Marquette in civil and environmental engineering. I did my master's at Clarkson in civil and environmental engineering. But one of the point I try to bring up now and also to my student is that my undergraduate was not in civil and environmental engineering. It was in biochemistry. So that's one of the interesting things about the field nowadays, how interdisciplinary it is. We require talent from different fields. And, that was one of my first examples when I saw how environmental engineering is. Environmental engineering on its own is a true interdisciplinary field. We cannot do anything without other engineers. There was a time when our job was just to move water. You had clean water here, you need to bring it here. That was our job. We were called water resource engineers at that time. But then eventually the water over here is not clean. So someone has to clean that water. Now, how do you clean water? Practically, right? You use a filter or you use a chemical. Well, who makes that filter? Well, that's a material engineer. Who makes the chemicals or how it's used? It's a chemical engineer or the chemists. Sometimes we use microbiology, microbes to clean water. We need those. So I started noticing that my field will not exist without all this interdisciplinary field. And that's what I fell in love with, knowing that I have to learn more than what I know all the time to for the challenges. And that's one of the things I'm going through right now, which is to now bring in digital and AI technology, which again, you can't learn everything in your PhD. You just learn what you need to. But eventually, when other technologies come in, this is where you have to work with other experts. So this is why I do this kind of webinars to meet people and hopefully meet some like-minded people with the skills that would be necessary in my field. So my research focus overall is water, wastewater, stormwater. To be honest, it's everything that is waste that I can help clean. I'm not necessarily focused on one kind, but if I have to, I generally go for wastewater. As I said, it's very complex. It has a lot of challenges and it has a lot of benefits. And if you're able to attack that, you should be able to do the others. The second important focus for me is emerging contaminants. PFAS, microplastics are a hot topic right now in terms of how do we prevent and remove it from our environment. Resource recovery has always been my go-to principle. Even from my PhD days, all my project was based on resource recovery, either getting energy out of it or getting nutrients out of wastewater. So that's resource recovery, not looking at waste as waste, but as a resource. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And overall, I've been fortunate to have a few funding sources from federal agencies. So I have a few grants that are currently supported by EPA, USDA, NSEA, NSF, and NOAA. So I'll go over some of those details slowly. So the first topic, why wastewater treatment is changing, right? So I already mentioned wastewater treatment has changed already. There was a time when, oh, sorry, generally water treatment has changed already. There was a time the water source was clean and now it's not. So the fact that as human population expands, our modern life is slowly blending into the environment, we start noticing a lot of our signatures in terms of pollution. And eventually those pollutions started, we started understanding their impacts, we started regulating them, but the regulations are not there yet. There are new pollutants that are coming in, pesticides that we did not detect in the past or did not think that causes cancer or something. Now, all of a sudden, we know now. So these kind of things always happen. And at the end of the day, if you pollute zero, that is, you don't put anything out, that's the best, but that's almost impossible or too expensive. So we need to have some kind of a reasonable limit where we can save the environment and also do the cleaning efficiently. So there is more stricter discharge limits coming in, especially in US and Europe, with high population centers that we are finding a lot of health impacts. Of course, there is climate pressure and water scarcity. There are some parts of the world where we don't have enough water, and there are some part of the world we have too much water, and both are problem. When we have too much water, it's flooding, but also that flood water mixes with all the bad water and causes diseases. And also all that bad water now has to be cleaned, and our treatment plants are designed for residential water, not residential plus rainwater. So they have a lot of issues in managing that. Water scarcity, as we know, if you don't have water, that's a big issue. And a lot of the wastewater treatment plants, well, that's also 99.9% water, but we don't think of it that way. We just think of it wastewater and we dump it. So that's another drive. The third one is aging infrastructure. Of course, a lot of countries, especially US, has a lot of aging infrastructure. Their treatment plants are more than 2 decades old. That requires revamp, refurbishment, etc., which is a lot of money. So when they are talking about refurbishment, no one wants to make the same thing again. They want to make it better and they want to make it more efficient. So this is what's also driving the new technology. Excuse me. Emerging contaminants, as I mentioned, PFAS is already an emerged contaminant, but there are new kinds of contaminant, microplastic associated diseases that are now coming in. So those are also important topics to consider. And overall, cost of operation is there. I mean, if you didn't know, it's our taxpayers' money that is used for treat water. And even in Mobile, which is not a big city, they spend around $10 million for their wastewater treatment plant. That's a lot of money, which, I mean, it's necessary. But then again, you think about it. I'm sitting in US and 10 million is a lot of money and they're not able to do it right. Now think about all the rest of the world. So we have to come up with a way where we can do everything sustainably at a lower cost. Moving on, and after at the end, there is a shift towards resource recovery. So we don't want to see wastewater as wastewater. At least in my field, we want to see it as resource now. There are a lot of materials, elemental materials in there that can be very useful if we are clever and patient enough to learn how to utilize them. So those are the main things. We are running out of landfills. We're running out of rivers or oceans to throw stuff in. So we have to, and people don't want landfills near their home, smelly stuff. So we need to come up with a way where we treat the wastewater, but also take out as much useful things as possible so that we don't have to burn fossil fuels to get those useful things. All right. So with that, drivers, there are certain emerging technologies which are in the landscape. There are few, I think 10 to 12 that I came across, but I have only kept the main ones that I experience in front of me when I go to conferences, etc. So one of the main ones that I see that is getting popular in the wastewater side, and it's been happening for a while, but it's now slowly getting into application, is AI and smart automation. And I'll go over a lot of these in a few details as we go along. So you have AI and smart automation, uh, which is basically what it sounds, automating all the processes. Digital twin, which is basically a virtual modeling system that helps people to, visualize and predict how the systems have to be modified, etc. Advanced membrane systems. Again, you know, I I know there are engineers in the audience. I just not sure how many environmental. So I'll go over a few details about the membrane systems. If you know already, I apologize. But membrane systems are now getting very, very, very popular. There was a time, it's been there for 2 decades, but it was very expensive. RO systems are now in most houses in US. It's slowly getting to a point that it can be affordable. Now, that same principle applies with wastewater treatment, etc., even water treatment. Now, those membranes are reasonably cheaper. Uh, as I said, we'll go over the PFAS and emerging contaminant, decentralized systems. So that's a very important topic. It's also one of my research topic. We'll go over that. And finally, resource recovery, the push for resource recovery. So I'll go over some of this emerging technology landscape, and hopefully after this talk, we can have more uh, discussion about these. All right, AI and smart automation. So if you ever been to a wastewater treatment plant or any kind of that system, it does not look any different from a refinery. You'll see a lot of pipes, tanks, etc., things moving. And the scale is huge. Even in Mobile, Alabama, which has a population, at least on paper, of 200, 300, less than 500,000 people, it has, I think, a capacity, as I said, like of what is it, 40 million gallons, 50 million gallons per day. So that's a lot of water that has to be moved, maintained, etc. And so if you go to a reasonable treatment plant, you'll see a lot of what do you call sensors. You'll see gauges, sensors, meters, etc., pumps, valves, which are all operated automatically. Now, there was a time when there was manual operation, but the scale is so large, you only have 5, 6 people, it's almost impossible. So now you have what's known as a digital control. So everyone sits in an office, they have a big screen where they can push and control everything digitally. Now, but that still requires a human to be there, right? So the human has to read the data from the sensors and then has to plug in and do some actions. Now, when you now scale this even more and more and more, this is where AI and automation is needed. If you do a simple search on Science Direct and do AI and wastewater, AI and anaerobic, you'll see thousands of papers of people right now modeling previous data. So they are taking data that has been collected a lot from wastewater treatment plants and they are plugging it into new AI models. Why? To create this relationship. What happens when, for example, the flow is increased, something has to be decreased, or something has to be increased? All those decisions that have to be manually made or digitally pressed, but still manually made, are now people are going towards AI and automation. And there are a lot of companies, the major companies in the world, Jacob, Xylem, etc., are all into this now. If I go to any of these conferences, WEFTEC, Water Environment Federation, is one of the biggest. Every company has an AI something written on them because that's basically the in thing, and they want to make things efficient now. So basically, what it would help with, of course, predictive maintenance, real-time monitoring, dosing. Chemical dosing is a major, major cost. The last thing you want to do is put too much than needed for cost, at the same time causing more problems. Aeration, biological systems need air, they need to be pumped. It seems simple, but it's not. Try pumping, air in a swimming pool with your mouth. You won't be able to, right? It's a lot of weight. So that's 80% of the energy that goes into wastewater treatment. If you didn't know, 80% of the energy in wastewater treatment goes in aeration. So if you can make it efficient, you don't have to turn the blower on all the time. That will save a lot of energy. It's like just like a house with central heating or central air. If you're always sitting in one room, why the you need to run the whole house, right? So that saves energy. So that's the kind of things. They seem small, but they are not. I'm talking these things can save in millions. And the issue right now we are having is these people who are in the environmental or wastewater field don't have this knowledge. This requires its own knowledge of masters and PhD to have this AI knowledge and algorithm knowledge. So there is a little bit of a gap right now in the field of finding this kind of talent where we have both. It's there, but either they are AI experts who don't know environmental engineering or environmental engineering who are don't know AI. So it's something is needed now in this new transition that we are having where AI and automation is coming in every major field, including mine. Digital twin is again, it's not obviously, it's, people try to combine it with AI, but generally it's just a visual simulation technology, right? So you can actually basically create an entire digital wastewater treatment plant and then play with it. So this system is slowly coming in wastewater systems. I've again seen some companies, the same ones, Xylem, Jacobs, etc., who are doing it, but I've not seen it implemented fully. We are seeing AI and digitization, but we are not seeing the full virtual systems. But on the research side, I see a lot. If you again do a science direct search, you'll see a lot of researchers, at least in universities, are trying to do that by partnering with local wastewater treatment plants. Because for them, it also is a research opportunity because you get so much data and you get predictions and models that you can use later on as well. So this actually is the main in thing right now that I'm noticing companies are pushing for and looking for talent in terms of integrating sensors, getting the data, and then modeling an entire treatment plant, which is complicated, but it's coming. There's a lot of progress in China on this. More studies are coming out of there for making wastewater treatment efficient, but that kind of talent is needed everywhere. And I'm telling you, future wastewater treatment plants are going to be using this. No one wants to go back to 20 years ago and work slowly. They're all jumping to the straight to the new technology. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of uh, ideas and interest in this. All right. The third one is the advanced membrane systems. So membrane systems, what are those? So they're just basically, as they sound, a filter, right? Now, how, we know that filtration can clean water. We know we have nano filters, we have micro filters, etc., that can clean water and remove small particles. And the smaller the membrane, the better it would be. That makes complete sense, right? But there was a problem. The problem was cost. The material and manufacturing of this membrane was a big, big hurdle. And that has now completely changed. I'm not saying they are darn cheap now, but if you look the price difference from 10 to 5 years ago, they're completely different. So now it has come to the point that wastewater treatment plants can afford these systems. Again, think about it. An RO system in your house is just doing gallons per day. This thing is supposed to do millions, 40, 50, 60 millions per day. So the cost can be a lot if these membranes, which have to be replaced, the membranes get clogged, they have to be replaced. But the advantage they give is stupendous. For example, they can filter. So if you have tiny, tiny particle which won't settle, this is the only solution we have. We are talking about nanoplastics and microplastics. So again, when we have to filter these, this is the technology we have. And we have known about this being very good for a long time. The only thing was the cost and energy. Energy is still a problem because you still have to apply some vacuum or a pressure to filter things. But the cost again has gone down, and people are coming up with again clever ways of using AI and automation to not just keep filtering all the time or increase the pressure all the time. They're trying to model how the membrane flexes and how it clogs, what's the flux between it, and try to manage the pressure to extend the life of the membrane and reducing cost. So it's all about also using sensors information and making the system more efficient. By the way, just so you know, most of the membranes we have now are made of what? Plastics, polymers, right? And one of the pollutants we are worried about is plastics. So that's the one of the challenges we have right now. It's not maybe in the digital world, but more on the material world where we are looking for new materials which are not plastic based that can do the same kind of filtration that we need and survive the rigors of wastewater. And yeah, that's a challenge that we need to get over. PFAS and emerging contaminants. I'm sure you all know about PFAS, the perfluoroalkyl substances, basically Teflon. It's a major issue all across the world. There is a lot of talk about reducing its use, but unfortunately, the properties of those materials are still so good that we use them. 3M is one of the major companies making them, and they are situated in Mobile. So PFAS, right? So it's a chemical, it's a forever chemical, it's made to last, and now we are trying to remove it. And again, we are having a lot of trouble. I mean, RO filter systems can take care of the long chain, but the small chains is really difficult. So now the focus has gone towards destroying it. So for that, we a lot of the technologies that I'm seeing is advanced oxidation. So it's basically creating peroxide in the water, and the peroxide is a highly potent oxidant, and it breaks the PFAS molecule into elements of carbon and fluorine, right? I think you can understand how expensive this would be, right? And that's the main thing. Again, it's the expense. So, whenever I bring in all these technologies, it's not to, replace the technology or replace the people or the operators. It's to make it efficient. That's where AI and digital and smart technology is focused on. It's not for necessarily solution, it's to improvising or optimizing the system. And that is also very essential. And again, membranes, photocatalytic membranes, again, these are just membranes which has some functional groups in it that can again do that oxidation on the membrane. And then you have activated carbon, which is the classic filtration system that is the most commonly seen in our water filters. I have one in my office right now. And there is a lot of work that has been done in activated carbon and PFAS, and it has shown to be good. There are a lot of companies, Calgon is one of the major one, who are supplying this for PFAS removal. So a lot of work is coming towards that. But again, it's one thing. This has nothing to do with AI and everything. But to make this system efficient, to make it work, to make it feasible, we will need AI or some kind of a digital visualization and prediction system. Now, this is one of the topics of my research that I'll also go over later, decentralized wastewater treatment. For those who don't know, just to explain, what is centralized and decentralized? Centralized system, as the name suggests, you have one central location of a wastewater treatment plant. So all the wastewater from a city or a region or a borough goes towards one central location of a wastewater, where the wastewater treatment plant is located, as you can see in the picture on the left. On the right, you have what's the example of a decentralized system. A decentralized system, as the name suggests, it's not centralized, right? So you have one house, you can have 10 houses with one treatment plant, you can have one house with one treatment plant. So that is known as decentralized treatment. Now, why is that important? Well, centralized treatment is good, it's efficient, but it's only efficient when in a high dense environment. When I talk about efficient, I'm talking about cost efficient. In US, I don't know about in Nigeria or anywhere numbers now. In US, it roughly cost around $1 million to put a 1 mile of pipe or close to it. Now you can think about it, the cost. If you now have to connect two houses which are 1 mile apart, who's paying that $1 million? Is it a taxpayer? Is it those two houses? Is it everyone? So that's where the situation is. US is a huge country. There are a lot of locations, and I'll go over some of the locations in the Alabama Black Belt, which are still rural. Houses are far apart. There is no infrastructure. What do we do? Now, if you want to do a central system, you cannot. It's going to cost. Who's going to pay? So this is where the thought has come in to go into what's known as a decentralized pathway, where you have these smaller modular system. They can be deployed faster because it's a small system. You don't have to wait 5 years to build a treatment plant. It is rural. It can be off grid. It has lower infrastructure burden. You just have to dig a small hole instead of finding a big plot of land. And it's flexible. If your house is growing, you can attach another unit and things like that. It's very flexible. So that's the advantage. And it's not only for rural areas. I'm telling you, even for cities, skyscrapers, why does a big skyscraper which has 500,000 people living in it have to have one central location? A skyscraper has enough people with enough wastewater. You can have one decentralized unit underneath. And you can imagine if you just have one skyscraper, one wastewater treatment, how much infrastructure is saved, how much piping you don't have to do, how much leakage you don't have to worry about. So even modern cities, even cities which are going to be dense in the future, are looking into decentralized treatment, which is within their structure, and they can help reuse the water. I'll go over some detail of my research in this. But again, just like the big treatment plant, small treatment plant, who's going to monitor the small treatment plant? The people are not going to. They are not experts. They have to go to office. They have to go to schools, right? None of us, we just want to flush and walk out, right? So if we're going to have smaller system, they have to be also automated, even if not more, because there's not going to be one operator there to check every day. So these technologies will only be successful if it's automated completely, because as of now it requires maintenance. People have to come 6 months and stuff like that, which is a hassle. So every technology, to make it even more efficient, even more user friendly, we need to make it more digital, just like a smartphone, right? Older phones did the job, but obviously a smarter phone is better for us. It's more user friendly. That's kind of what we have to do in these technologies. The final landscape, resource recovery and circular water economy. This is more of a general slide. This is the general pathway and notion everyone in my field generally thinks like. So reducing waste, that's a one of the major factors. If you didn't know, there's a lot of waste generated in a wastewater treatment plant. All the chemicals that are added, all the solids that are, there's a lot of waste, material waste. So while doing our treatment, we also have to look at how we can reduce the amount of inputs we are putting in and the waste we are creating, which may be even more hazardous because you're pulling all the nasty out of the wastewater. Now, this is even worse than the wastewater. So we have to find a way to reduce waste because landfills, we are running out of landfills. Lower energy and chemical demand, that's going to be a factor. Cost of fuel, I mean, if you haven't noticed, have gone up. So yeah, that's always the talk. It's always about money. It's always about taxpayers' money, and the money goes in two things: chemicals and energy. So that's the main way how to reduce it. And as I said, if you have an automation system that can predict, you don't need something over here and over here, you can save just by that. Not to, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel, come out with a new chemical. No, just the same principle, just better and efficient. And overall, the last point is something I tell my students all the time. I see wastewater as a source of value than a waste. You can make energy out of wastewater using anaerobic digestion, which I've worked on. You can use direct water reuse if you have the time and if you have the energy and the money, you can do RO or something, and you can basically drink the wastewater. This is what the astronauts do all the time. They're drinking their own sweat and pee. No one's complaining. Recovery of nutrients. If you didn't know, I mean, of course, phosphorus is one of the main nutrients for life. Your DNA has phosphorus, and we get our phosphorus from plants. Where do plants get their phosphorus from? From fertilizer. Well, where does fertilizer get its phosphorus from? Well, it's not in the air, it's not in the water, it's mined. All the phosphorus is mined. Now, how many countries are sources of phosphorus? I would say, I think 5 countries basically hold 90% of phosphorus, and one of them is in North Africa, Algeria, right? They actually have 60-70% of the resource between Algeria and I think it was Morocco, I think. So that's the phosphorus. Now everyone needs phosphorus. Every country imports phosphorus, India, China, US. But here's the thing, phosphorus is not destroyed. Your body uses whatever, and then it comes out as waste. All that phosphorus, most of that phosphorus is in wastewater. Almost 30% of the phosphorus we mine goes into our wastewater. What if we get that out? What if we use it? What if we make fertilizer out of it? Those are the kind of things we need to think about now, because we that helps our country reduce imports, and at the same time it's sustainable. It's helping the environment by not mining, etc. And the last point is wastewater solids. Wastewater has a lot of solids, and all that solid is removed. That's how we clean the wastewater. But what happens to that solid? Typically, you dewater it and you compost it. Now, that's good, compost, but there was a lot of pushback against using wastewater compost for fertilizer for a long time in US, because they thought, oh, wastewater, right? And it's, if it's poo and all that stuff. But I mean, finally people are starting to realize not to see it that way. They are making it into biosolids, which can be safely applied to the farms, etc. now. But now with the new threat of PFAS and microplastics, there is a new talk. What happens? All those PFAS and microplastics are in the solids, and now if they go in the fertilizer, they will be in the plants. So new challenges. Obviously, we have to use wastewater as some product because again, we don't have landfills. But at the same time, we need to come up with some new solutions in how to prevent contamination when we are trying to do something good. All right, so we'll go move on to my some real world examples. There are so many. I just found a few. So smart sewers. So I only talked about wastewater, but sewer systems and stormwater sewer systems comes under that. So South Bend is a city in Indiana. They put up 120 smart sensors and actuators to open and close gates. What was the benefit? Oh, I don't have the number here. I think it's 70%. So overall 70% reduction in combined sewer overflow. What does that mean? It's again, just if you didn't know, so combined sewer. Typically, you have a sewer pipe and you have a stormwater pipe. The stormwater pipe is just supposed to carry rainwater, and the sewer pipe is just supposed to carry sewer. But that requires two pipes, and that's more costly. So a lot of cities in the past, even now, what they did was combined sewer. So what happens is it takes the sewer, and whenever there is rain, the rainwater also gets in it. Now, I will ask you, if I put one drop of sewer in a cup of water, is that cup of water clean? No. So even if there is a very little amount of sewer water in the pipe, but if you have 2 inches of rain, now you have million gallons of sewer water. So that's what causes the overflow. You have this much sewer, the treatment plants cannot take it. It overflows, gets into places you don't want to get to. But based on smart sensors, understanding, noticing the water level, etc., opening the valves and gates as it's supposed to, rather than making it generic, making it smarter, they reduced 70% of this overflow within one period. And it also has saved them $500 million of improvements because again, one of the major things cost wise in infrastructure is leakage, water leakage and sewer leakage. There is so much water that is wasted, clean water that is wasted. And at the same time, all that wastewater getting into groundwater is also a major issue. So using this as a way, they actually prevent a lot of capital cost expenditure in maintenance while by monitoring and being there on time before things get worse. Another two example is one is from Louisville, Kentucky. They again did 1 billion gallons of CSO reduction. That's a huge amount per year. 1 billion gallons of combined sewer. That is going somewhere in some river or some place. That's been a reduction in Cincinnati again. So I just showed you the example of some basically stormwater management kind of things, but even there are plenty of examples where efficiencies have improved in wastewater treatment plants, so they were able to expand and add more just because of the automation that they have. Another real world example regarding wastewater monitoring and public health this time. I wanted to bring this in because this was something very interesting that I was also very interested in terms of my research. So, of course, during COVID, we know that there was a lot of wastewater monitoring that helped a lot. It makes sense. Humans, when we release waste, a lot of our microbes in our body are also in that waste, and that can help detect things. And that was used very effectively during COVID. And now, if you didn't know, we are still using it in the US, and at least in a lot of countries they still have funds to do this kind of monitoring because that is very, very beneficial to tell if there is any emerging diseases that are coming in a region or in a community. Now, again, how it was done? Well, the classic way. Someone has to go there, collect a sample, come to the lab, do it properly with standard methods, etc. You can see where this is going. It's efficiency, it's time, it's money again. So this is where again real-time monitoring systems are now coming in. I have one example here in the slide, the flu dion alert system. Uh, Basically, what it is, if you have worked with microbiology, you know you use a plate, you put some microbes in there, they grow. Or if you want to detect, you put some kind of an indicator that binds to those microbe and has a color or some kind of fluorescence. But we used to do it in the lab manually and do it. Now you have a system that can do it automatically. It has a system with pumps, it will draw the water, filter it, it will add the enzyme, it will heat it up, incubate it, that we used to do it in the lab, and then take a sensor picture and then send that picture out, right? So all that's all automation. And this was used in the Paris Olympics. Famously, the Paris, that river was contaminated with E. coli. So they were deployed during there and helped a lot in terms of monitoring and stuff. One of the cool things about this is the data. The amount of effort it takes to do microbiology and pathogens is so much that this kind of technology really helps in doing this. They're not cheap, but again, they are going to help a lot in terms of monitoring continuously. And this is one of those examples where someone took something from the lab, made it automated, now made it smarter. And now if you add AI and other items in it to predict, just make it even more efficient. So, 5 minutes more, I guess. So now I'll just come up with my research examples, that some of the topics that I'm doing and how I'm trying to incorporate AI and technologies and need them in my future work. So one of my work that is going on is funded by NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, and the Sea Grant, and it's on microplastic research. So it has multiple goals in this. There are five total objectives, including monitoring, survey, removal, and education, outreach, etc. But I'm just going to talk about a few of my objectives in this that pertains to this. So the first one, if you look at the graph or the map on the left, all this were data points of microplastic that we had at the time we started the project. But if you look just below Alabama, that red AL, there's not much data. So that was our push. We wanted to get more data on microplastic in our coastal environment and see what are the factors that influence them. Uh, Within this grant, we were able to start a center. It's called GC Camp, Gulf Coast Center for Addressing Macroplastic Pollution. It includes, as you can see, a lot of members. It has engineers, chemists, microbiologists, etc. So this is a one. I also have a link up there. This is one avenue where collaboration is welcome. We are looking for skills and talent that can help in this fight against microplastic that I'll explain a little bit. So the first objective was to understanding the pollution patterns in the Gulf Coast. What are the main sources of microplastic getting into the Gulf Coast? And our hypothesis was very simple. The wastewater treatment plant are the primary barriers between waste and the environment. So that's where our main source is for the environment. It's not wastewater treatment plant is not the source, but at least from the reference point of the location, that's where it's coming from. So we monitored five wastewater treatment plants all across Mobile. Uh, they had different treatment systems that helped us to also relate membrane versus lagoon versus aeration system, etc. We were able to correlate different things. At the same time, we also monitored 10 environmental water location, basically surface water location near the wastewater treatment plant and also around the location. So on the images in the bottom, you can see my students. We took again one of the things we had a challenge with microplastic. Everything around us is plastic. All the containers are plastic. Everything is plastic. So we had to take a lot of time getting all the equipments which are steel based, cotton, cloth based, etc. So it was a lot of effort to make the area sterile so that we get the right amount. Oh, another point to make. So, a lot of studies, when they do this microplastic research, it's a very, very daunting task. It's a very hard work. They don't necessarily give you all the data because it's a lot. But in our case, we were comprehensive. We looked at the concentration, the shape, the type, and the size. So, we used FTIR to get even more information than most papers bring in. So I'm just going to go over the results in general. We can have more Q&A later on. But overall summary of wastewater treatment plants, we found the most common plastics, PET and polystyrene. And again, they are plastics which are used commonly as well. And in terms of shapes, we found all types of shapes. We found fragments, film, beads, fiber, line particles, etc. Now, overall, what we found is that the wastewater treatment plants did reduce the amount of microplastics, but then it was not consistent. Sometimes we actually saw an increase. Now, why? Because micro treatment plants have a lot of pumps, a lot of motors, etc. So if a big cloth comes in, it can break down and now become multiple microplastics. So we need to consider this in a different way. Overall, yes, there is a reduction, but it's not that it's not generating its own. So it looks like it generates its own, and still there is a relative reduction. But we need to also consider that it generates its own. In public waters, again, we did not, we found the similar plastics. We found PET and polyethylene. Again, the most common plastic that are used in cloth, fiber, utensils, etc. Uh, in terms of what is it, shape, again, we found all the shapes, fragments are the most common. So what does it show? Well, the plastics which are common are commonly found in the environmental, our, and we started to build our data sets over here. The second part of this research is looking at removal. Okay, now we are monitoring it. Now, how about removal? So, microplastic is everywhere. That pollution is vast. If there is a filter that we need to come up with, it has to be cheap. So, what we went with was to look at carbon-based filters first, because carbon is already in the market. It's already used, and we wanted to see what it can do with microplastics. So we investigated bunch of filters. We looked at sand, which is the classic, activated carbon, which is again classic. And we also looked at a new form of, not new form, but new form of activated carbon in the field of wastewater called activated carbon fibers. So that's that last image you see. It just looks like a cloth, but if you zoom in, you can see these fibers. These are usually made from plastic fibers, which are then heated and carbonized. So all the plastic is now become carbon. So there's no plastic in it. Now, this system, this activated carbon fiber is still used in air filtration primarily, not in water, but we wanted to see it because it has higher surface area, higher porosity than activated carbon. And everyone talks about surface area when it comes to removal. So we tested it. On the y-axis, you have microplastic concentration, x-axis, you have time. Just to be quick, the blue line on the top is the control. The orange is the sand, the gray is activated carbon, the commercial Calgon, and you can see all the activated carbon fabrics did way better. So with that, we were quite encouraged, and now we are taking this work further. We are almost done with this work and about to be published, where but then again, now we are characterizing ACF, but eventually we will have to now start modeling it. And this is where some of the AI and other automation ideas comes in. But this is that work. But the main challenge we had in this, and this is where the topic comes in, is automation in detection. The students who have to collect water, they have to collect the water, they have to dry it or sieve it, then they have to separate all the sand from the plastic using density separation. They have to do it multiple times, then they have to wash it, they have to put it in a filter, then they have to take a picture. And after you take a picture, you have to still count manually. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. That's why you don't have a lot of studies doing this kind of work. It takes a lot of time. And this is where one of the main hurdles in this research comes in. We need AI assisted image analysis. It's absolutely essential. Faster particle counting, classification, everything, all of this we need. We need. I mean, I've noticed a lot of labs are doing it. They are able to identify images, but all of that has to come into a package. I have an FTIR machine which we can do manually. We can see, and my student is counting manually. But then the softwares we have for counting is not that accurate. So we need something that can count, differentiate plastic from sand, also tell us shapes and sizes. So we have a couple of people in our team, in the current GCCAM team, who are working on it. One team is looking at taking microscopic images and trying to identify, and the other team is looking into detecting in the environment. The second team is far behind in the sense that we need to first have that microscope sensor and then we go into environmental sensor. But if I go to any wastewater conference, you see companies with sensors everywhere. Not microplastic, PFAS, not PFAS, but like DO and everything. They're putting it on boats, they're putting it on drones, they're putting it everywhere. So this is kind of the future when it comes to bringing in sensors and making life easy for the operators. The second research topic, so that was on microplastic funded by NOAA. This is now funded by USDA, US Department of Agriculture. Now, this decentralized research project was focused on the Alabama Black Belt. Now, just to give you a brief story about it, Alabama Black Belt is a region in the middle of Alabama, as you can see in the map over here. It has 17 counties. Now, it famously, historically, was the place where a lot of cotton agriculture was happening. I'm talking during the slavery times, etc. But after the emancipation, etc., a lot of the people who were working there stayed there. They were given land there. But one of the reason why that was really good for cotton was because cotton needs standing water, right? So it has clay soil. Clay soil naturally can hold water, so it's great for that kind of farming. However, it is not good for wastewater. If you have a, if you know, I'm sure you know of a septic tank. So a septic tank is basically a rectangular tank with a chamber with a wall in between, and it's all its job is to hold the solids. The wastewater comes in, the solids fall into the tank, and the liquid goes out. Now, where does the liquid go out? It usually goes in the backyard where it trickles into the ground. It's known as the leach bed. Now, if you have a normal soil, the water can go inside the soil and get treated. But when you have clay soil, the water pools up. So what you have here is a picture of a house with sewage in the backyard. So this is what happens when you don't have that right type of soil. And by the way, this is not just about clay soil. If your house is near river or surface water, if the groundwater is really close to the house, then the same thing will happen. The septage won't go inside the ground. It will pool to the back. So it's not just about clay soil in the middle of Alabama for all coastal areas. And we have a lot of coast with a lot of people. India has, Mobile. So a lot of coastal areas will be affected by the same principle. If the water comes in, it will push the sewage into your backyard, right? Now, that's for the coastal areas, but the Black Belt has other major challenges too. As I said, it's historically backward. It was, the history was where, people were in slavery and then they came out of this. There is not much economic development over there. Alabama as a whole has a per capita income of $50,000. In that region, the average income is $20,000. So they're half the average state income. So they are under poverty level. And so they can't afford, that $1 million a mile pipeline. No one can afford. No taxpayers can afford that. And houses in that region are so far apart. It's a very rural area. So for that reason, there's been a push into come up with some sanitation because people over there were having diseases that they didn't see for 10 years. Ringworm, tapeworm, things like that, right? Because kids are playing in the backyard. So there is an immense push to come up with decentralized solutions. So what is decentralized solutions? Basically bringing wastewater treatment smaller behind a backyard, right? So there are certain technologies out there. This is one. It's an aerobic system with microbes in it. It's called Fuji Clean system, which was deployed in the Black Belt and tested. And the other one is the Advantex. It's a filtration membrane system where the water is filtered and the microbes grow on the membrane and treat the water. So both are biological systems, and they're small enough and compact enough that they can be placed behind the house. You won't even know it. These are my students going to that location and collecting some samples. That's where the problem is again. Now, if a big treatment plant needs sensors, think about a small one. Doesn't it need sensors? Who's going to take care of it? Right? It has a lot of moving parts. It has microbes in it. It has to be aerated again. All that. So again, automation and is the only way these kind of technologies will get to the people. It's fine to have it on, in this way in literature, etc. Having a company say we have it, oh, pay us maintenance, will come every year. No person wants to do that. So they want something that they have control on and they can monitor, just like your air conditioning or whatever you can have in your house. So this is where again technologies are there, but they're not smart enough to be employed, and that's what's keeping it away from application. And making it smart and affordable would progress more. My final research example is on stormwater research. This is primarily funded by EPA. There are two grants right now that I'm working on. Both are looking at removing nutrients from stormwater. The first grant in that I proposed to develop geotextiles. Geotextiles are basically plastic fabrics used in construction. But my idea was to develop hybrid geotextile that can be used for construction purposes and reinforcement purposes, but also has some functional groups that can help grab nutrients. So I'm working with Auburn University. They have a stormwater research facility where we can test these fabrics in pilot scale systems. So that was the first work. And the second work is a development of the first work. In that, I used plastic geotextiles. Now I'm working with NOAA on a microplastic. So the last thing I want to do is use plastic, especially in farms. So I propose to use agricultural residues. So their waste products, sticks and stems and hay, and develop a fabric or a filter out of it. Now, both these have nothing to do with AI or digitization directly. But again, one of the main challenges that I saw the farmers face and I will face is sensors. There are a lot of sensors out there, field sensors, but they are all individual. They can maybe communicate a little bit to each other, but they just are data dump. There is absolutely no algorithm or anything there. So a farmer can put a sensor, but all he will get are five numbers, and he doesn't know what to do with those numbers. So there is a lot of need for algorithm building, modeling in the farm sector. It has been completely ignored. There's a lot coming in when it comes to weather. I mean, we have weather stations. We know when it rains, don't water, but still farmers don't get that information. It's not in their hand, right? We get weather data from an airport which is 30 miles away, and it says it might rain, and it doesn't rain over here. So we need to get these sensors, which are now decent, cheap enough that these farmers can afford, but then it's not for them yet. It's for researchers and scientists. So it should be our job to bridge this gap, take this technology and make it user friendly for them. So this is where AI based decision support, farm scale management is coming in. And I'm telling you, this is the perfect alignment with EPA and USDA and all other grants in US right now. Every agency has a big section which says AI or something. Like you need to have some kind of an AI element or digitization element in your proposal. And that's basically what I've been doing. Any proposal I have, I'm including AI and modeling and LCA or something like that to improve the overall product at the end. So closing remarks. So overall, technology that creates impact is the main technology that helps. I mean, there are a lot of technologies out there which are maybe 10, 20 years from now, but come on. I mean, if it's not useful, it's not useful. You can have a phone for $10,000. Well, good luck, that's your phone, right? The only reason the smartphones are useful and everyone's using it is reasonably affordable. So that's what the first thing is. I've noticed that digitization and automation in my field makes things affordable. A operator doesn't have to walk 15 miles every day. Everything is in his office. Everything can be controlled. He doesn't have to worry about not being sick or something like that. The treatment plant won't collapse and release some pollutant. Everything can be done in a cost efficient way. That's the main thing. Second, locally maintainable. Of course, if it's simple, you don't have to get an expert from somewhere and train them. You can train the people locally and they will own it. They would feel that this is theirs, and if something happens, their community gets hurt. Community centered, both goes together. If you bring in people from the community in the planning, then they will have a stake in it. They'll put money in it. Data driven, environmentally protective, built for long term use, and connected to policy. All of these are connected. I know there are a lot of elements in there, but eventually it's all about information. If people get information right in their hand as soon as possible, they feel happy, they feel more trustworthy. So, technology is the way. We have seen this in politics, we have seen this in a lot of things. We should see this in the infrastructure side of things as well, where a lot of money goes. Think about it, how much money is being applied in infrastructure. With that, I will end just by introducing my team here at South Alabama. Currently, I have five PhD, five masters, and three undergrad students. I have a visiting scholar coming in, Dr. Abid Hussain from Carleton. And I also have a project manager. My team is growing. As I said, I have some active grants right now, but I'm also actively applying for more EPA and USDA grants. I just did this year. And again, all of them have this AI and digitization element. And I'm not an expert in this. I want to become an expert in this. So eventually, I will be doing projects in this, working with people, faculty, collaboration, and I will be needing students to work in this as well. So as of now, I don't have any, but next year, most likely, I will be putting out ads. So if you want to keep an eye on aesp.com, I usually put my ads for student positions and postdocs over there. And at the end of the day, if we are open to collaboration, myself individually, and at the same time, all the researchers from GC Camp. So you can reach out to any one of those individuals if you want to. You can take my name, and that way you can start talking. And with that, well, that's my talk. If Thank you again so much. This is my information, my email address. my website, which needs to be populated more. Again, it's not updated, but you can email me on my email address if you have any collaboration ideas, anything you want to ask about. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful presentation. I want to say a big thank you for the wonderful slide presentation, the effort you put into the slide, into the information, the hierarchy of information, the way you served us. It was actually wonderful. It was brilliant. It was enlightening, and I'm sure it's same testimony for every one of us who are able to listen to you via this webinar. We are so grateful. So this is the time where we go to the Q&A session. That's the question and answer. So we've all listened to Dr. Kaushik say sharing his own insights, sharing his areas of concentration in terms of research and development, and not just research, but the reality of it, working on tools and devices, and highlighting the need for automation, which can lead to what cost-effective development and lot more. So this is the period where we get to what asking questions as we seem fit. Even we can ask him questions pertaining to our own geographical location. How do we questions that baffle us? Actually, questions that baffle us. So I'm going to hand the stage over to anyone of us who wants to ask a question. So anyone within the participants who wants to ask their question, you can go on to ask your question. You can go on to ask your question. And if you're on YouTube, listening to us live on YouTube, you can actually drop your question in the comment section, as I will do well to check it right now. Thank you. So while we are waiting, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much again, Dr. Kalsik, for that presentation. While we are waiting for uh, question from the participants, just as the moderator has mentioned, I want to really appreciate the presentation once again, and particularly drawing how this presentation really connect with what we do at Smart. Just as we've discussed earlier on, let me just reiterate again because Dr. Kalzik has uh, basically joined the Smart as collaborators, and then we have some of the work that we do. The University of Lagos through Smart are currently under review by him, and trying to identify more area of collaboration, particularly as relating to the Biomass Energy Research Group. Let me say what I actually picked from your presentation on wastewater treatment. The first aspect has to do with the aeration energy optimization that you presented, and the second has to do with uh, the biomass. I mean uh, the membrane treatment. Of course, as you've mentioned from your background, most of us at Smart are majorly engineers, uh, but we have also collaborators from the Faculty of Science and from the economics, and that are also relating to biochemistry side, the biomass side, and the science generally of all these organisms that you've talked about. So I said that to particularly uh, support the ongoing collaboration and try to link it to the possibility to maybe enhance that scope along these two areas that I found out in your presentation today. Uh, Now, you apparently pose uh, a concern uh, while dealing with, how to deploy decentralized wastewater system treatment. Uh, of course, the uh, geography or the structures of wastewater management in Alabama, I can say, really align with the kind of structure we have in Nigeria, and because we don't really have more of an effective centralized waste water system. Almost everybody, maybe industry based or small communities or maybe estates, or even individual privilege uh, residential houses, they deal with their water treatment themselves. So the question that I want to ask has to then link with what could be the motivation for them to buy uh, this research initiative that you put forward. Because to develop maybe digital twins, to develop uh, a monitoring system and automated systems, it's not going to be cheap, right? And if they are dealing with wastewater treatment, on their own, not depending on the government, how are you going to advance this development? And how would they buy into it? Is there anything that you're presently doing to really bring out how this technology can be deployed into their hands? So I know that's something that maybe our ongoing collaboration can finalize. But I just put that one forward as a thought in case you have something to say about that before we listen to
Yeah.
other participants.
I mean, I definitely have a thought, but the answer is not easy. Like the technology. So, I mean, why did I bring up this $50,000 per capita? Alabama has $50,000 per capita income. Do you know what UK's per capita is? 48,000. So
Mm,
Alabama is richer than UK, right? And Alabama is the poorest state in US. And still they have sanitation issue where children are getting ringworm. So is it money? I mean, would Nigeria, if it has 50,000, or India, which has 50,000 per capita, would we save everything? So clearly money is not the thing, because Alabama should have enough money to take care of this. But it's the intent, it's the policy, it's also other things. Do people care? Do the politicians care? There are a lot of other factors that I'm seeing that engineers cannot do on its own. Like our job is to come up with solutions, but to implement it, we have to work with the policy people. We have to work with the real legislation people and try to make them understand. And a lot of these guys are not engineers. So, when you go and talk to them as engineers, it could be like a sales pitch. Oh, buy my thing. It's amazing. It will do everything. It's cheap. And that's how they get scammed and some companies run away, right? So there has been a lot of situations like that, which keeps them distrusted with the companies too, or these technologies too. So there is a lot of factors. Even in these communities, when I go, they don't necessarily look at a university professor and think he's a good person. They don't necessarily think that I'm there to help. They just think, oh, he sits over there, some genius guy trying to do something for his name.
mm,
There's a lot of distrust because these people have been pushed to that level,
mm,
right? They have been here for so long, they have not been listened to. People have been treating them badly. So all of a sudden, when all we show up, we need to be very sensitive. And you're dealing with wastewater. Wastewater is a very personal thing. No one, I mean, I've noticed no one wants to be like, come to my backyard and see my wastewater. They are not, they are ashamed. They don't want to talk about it. And
mm,
so there is a lot of social factors as well. I understand the engineering factors are there. We have a technology, it's sitting right there, Fuji Clean, right? But to get to that application, there is a lot of social and economic factors. One of the main thing is cost. It's not just the cost of the equipment, it's the maintenance. These things need maintenance. And who's going to do that? That's always a big question. These companies are in Japan. Who's going to come?
mm,
Like if this is a small town, for example, a small village in Nigeria, they put 10 of these systems. Who's going to maintain that? You
mm,
need to have a personnel over there. You need to have a training over there. So those kind of thoughts are not there. If you don't have a college educated person in that village, who's going to take care of all this?
mm,
Right. So there is a lot of other factors that has to come in, which is where government has to come in,
mm,
because government is the one which can give these kind of base foundations. The
mm.
companies will just put a technology and run away. but the maintenance has to be done by the society and the community and the people, and they have to give a damn about it. So this is what you have to communicate to them. You have to somehow tell them that if you don't care, no one will care. So, you know.
Okay, thank you very much. So back to you, moderator.
All right, thank you so much for that subtle answer. That's very precise, actually. That's very precise, and it's going to help us to know even how to approach energy investors and even the government, even the society as a whole. I believe that a lot of people are having time to digest the topic in itself because as much as it is, like you said, nobody wants to say, "Come see the wastewater at my backyard." But now you are telling us to look at it. So I'm sure that a lot of people might not be able to ask the question right now, but they actually might be reaching out in some time from now. But aside from
Sure.
that, I would like to ask a question. Personally, for me, I didn't know that we were going to be discussing this at all. In my mind, in my wildest imagination, I was looking at it that, oh, we have a lot of drainage system here in this Nigeria as a country. I was looking at, oh, how can we set infrastructure within this drainage system to filter the water, even to get it to a level of it being clean and all of those type of things, right? So that was going to be the next route of my question. Have there been countries that have been able to track their drainage water? Like from your research work, have you seen a country that have been able to like practically tackle its drainage system and then draw out clean water from it, draw out recoverable resources from it, and then like just bring out a whole lot of economic advantage even from the wastewater problem? That's my question.
Okay, just to you broke a little bit, just to make sure. Your question is, are there examples of countries where they have taken drainage water and cleaned it and made it economical?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Are there countries? Well, yes. One of the main countries. Well, okay. Are there countries that has taken sewer water and made it into drinking water? Not full countries, no. There are examples in some states and cities here. For example, in California, there is a famous one. I forgot, it's in LA. It was funded by Bill Gates. That's why it was famous. And he was drinking the water to show that, hey, it's safe. So he used RO. The problem is, can it be done? Yes. Is it cheap? No. That's the problem. So whenever someone is, it's all they use it when they are have no other option. California is going through a lot of drought, especially the rich area, Silicon Valley. So they don't have water, but they have money, so they can afford it. Australia, for example, Australia does this. They are basically reusing. I don't think they are using it for drinking, but they use it for landscaping to almost everything, and they are doing it. But for a long time, again, it was a problem. People didn't want to drink poo water, but at the end of the day, they needed water, and they did it. So yes, there are examples, but it's not like a whole country is relying on it. I mean, the closest one I can think of is Singapore. Singapore relies completely on desalination and RO system. Their new water actually recycles some sewer water as well. The bottle new water they sell. So Singapore might be the closest one. But again, if you notice, Singapore is a very rich country, in a very small country, and they are desperate for water. So those three things come in, right? So, that's the problem. If you have those three things, there's a solution for everything. But as long as there is some other option out there, people are not gonna go for it. So that's why I think when it comes to water, I know technology is the solution, but we need something local. We cannot bring water from some city to another city because that way is that the other city will be beholden to the other city. So we want to make sure that everyone has local sources and local management.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Kausika, for that response. But I think more of what the moderator is trying to bring out. I think I can understand the motivation here because what's the concern of anyone, when you don't have a technology or a solution that have not been fully deployed and it's very expensive. and it's very expensive, is how do you go about getting them to buy it?
Oh, I see.
How do you
Okay.
how do you go about convincing them? Because that's what is going to motivate, the work that you do, and then maybe the collaboration we want to have, so even if you go, I mean, gracefully, researchers, you can get grants, but most of the time the grants also come with this sustainability clause, because they want
Right.
something that is going to really be, embraced by the end users, and they are going to sustain it. They're going to buy it, So how do you motivate them to really see, the economic value, into doing this?
Okay, so couple of ways. So, for example, I'll take two examples. One is the PFAS example, right? PFAS has no value. It has no, you cannot reuse PFAS or anything. But those technologies for PFAS removal are very expensive. Electro-oxidation, advanced oxidation, all these technologies are expensive. Now, for a while in US, it was a major trouble in getting, I mean, in the research side, you can convince people, but in the application side, there was a lot of issue. How was it encouraged? This is where the other team comes in, the health people. They came and encouraged. They came and did a lot of studies showing how this PFAS is affecting children and affecting
Mhm,
older people and affecting that. Now I came in, and let's say I only have an expensive technology. Now I have a choice to give them. Either you don't have one or we have this expensive one, right? So now the question is, how does an expensive technology become cheaper? We have history of this. The history of expensive technology becomes cheaper is demand and also government help, right? So eventually you can't just convince one person to buy unless that person is like, I need this PFAS
mhm,
removal.
mhm,
And then I say, well, this is all you have, right? But if it has to be a much larger solution, then it has to be. This is where the legislation, the policymakers come in, because we know these technologies are way too expensive to start. But once you start it, maybe give them a funding to a capital investment, and then they slowly pay over time, right? Instead of paying immediately $10,000,
mhm,
you pay $50 a month, right? Something like that. And the government pays the other 50 for month or something. Because eventually the government has to be convinced that this benefits you. Because if this leakage happens, you will save $1 billion in the future in cleaning that river. So
mhm,
invest now. And then the people have to be convinced. People, there are people who are convinced just because they know the technology, but everyone is about money. At the end of the day, it's money. So if money can be saved, I don't think they have any issue with the technology as such when it comes to the expensive one. The second one I mentioned is the nutrients, phosphorus. Again, the phosphorus removal, the farmers don't care about environment that much. They care about their farm. But when I go and tell them, hey, I want to prevent phosphorus so that I can save the river from eutrophication, they won't care. But if I tell them I'm removing the phosphorus so that I can give it back to you as fertilizer so that you can save money, then they care. So, at the end, the eutrophication is prevented, the river is clean, but I told the story in a different way. So there are examples where you can give the benefit to the farmer or someone, your client, and tell them that you will save money, you will save this in the future. And the other, there is a more of a direct benefit, like a health benefit or something like that. So it's a balance between the topic. Yeah.
okay. Thank you very much once again, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate the extensive time. I think maybe also the questions might really not more room for the question might really not be available because of the time that the lecture has taken, and then the interactions after the lectures also, I think, has opened more uh, uh, light to the discussions that we've had so far. So I think uh, we will continue to talk more from the area of collaboration with the Zero Emission Research Facility at the University of Lagos, particularly as I've identified the the more area of ensuring that we are talking more about energy management, and from what you have presented here now, I see if we are able to go to maybe existing plants where we have water resources treatment, and we are able to profile these wastewater treatment technologies, AI optimizations, digital twins, solutions to them with a convincing evidence of how they can save on their energy bills. That is obviously going to be embraced by them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see more of what we do together with this collaboration as being able to bring in something, at least for a start, taking the solution to where we have existing water treatment plants. And the target will be to give them an evidence of how the embrace of the solution that we are proposing, which has to do with automations, monitoring, or maybe fault diagnostics, how the membranes can be, optimized, how the aeration energy can also be optimized to ensure that at the end of the day, they use less energy than they are presently using, so that obviously is going to be what I will propose. But let's continue to work more on the collaboration, and then we can possibly bring out some presentation during the SMART conference in October. So having said that, I just want to quickly give the normal remark that we'll give about the ongoing from research to reality series. Why I appreciate the presentation today by Dr. Kausik, and we so much also appreciate the effort of the SMART management, team, in organizing this ongoing. This is another wonderful presentation today, and what we normally do when we have each presentation is that we also present what we'll be having next week, if we already have a speaker. So today is not going to be an exception because we already have a speaker for next week, and the speaker coincidentally is my PhD supervisor at the University of Manitoba, and he was also the former vice president of the University of Newfoundland in Canada here. And so he's delighted to present something relating to hydrogen energy, to us. And so his topic has also been, sent, which I'm going to, after the seminar, link up with the smart management to go ahead and just get across to him so that we can have in profile for next week. So I'm saying that to say that for all the participants, the topic next week is hydrogen energy fueling a clean future. So just get prepared, and invite others that have not been aware of this smart, research conference live webinar, and let's be here next week, and it's going to be a wonderful time again. So thank you once again, Dr. Kausik, and I get over to the moderator to round up.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very, very, very much, everyone. One thing I would like also to take advantage of is the knowledge, right? They say knowledge is power. And over time, Smart Conference through its webinar from research to reality has been bringing us in contact with knowledge week by week, most especially the students amongst us, the researchers among us, and I even know the engineers among us who have gone vast in knowledge already. No knowledge is every knowledge is very important. So, Dr. Kausik, we say a very big thank you. The Smart Conference project team, we wonderfully appreciate the effort you put into your presence right now, into the slide, and into everything. And thank you for answering our question and not saying that, oh, you evade them. We really, really appreciate you. And thank you to Dr. for setting this up. Also, thank you to every one of you, our wonderful participants. We hope to see you next week. And to those on YouTube and every other social media interface that this will be getting to later on, we appreciate you and we say God bless you all and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.